Crystal Waters, It Began in Europe. Book 1 in the Crystal Waters series by Diana Rosevskis. Chapter 5, The Riddle. Herman led Emma, Grace and Robert to his cottage at the back of the house. Olga had gone out to the nearby village on some errands. He took them to the lounge where they all sat down on the neat floral furniture. Herman, sitting opposite in his large armchair, glared at them. After a long silence, he spoke with a booming voice that startled poor Seba near his feet. "What the blazes do you think you were doing? You don't go messing around with things you don't know about," yelled Herman. The children shifted uneasily in their seats and avoided eye contact. They recognized that Herman had a kind heart, but he was not someone to be trifled with. It was Robert who spoke first. "It was my fault, Herman." Robert looked down at his trainers as he spoke. His face was crimson. "I told them about the gateway." Silence fell as he noticed Herman shaking his head in disapproval. "So, you'd thought you'd go strolling right in there and fix it all, did you, eh?" sneered Herman. "Don't you know how dangerous it is? You don't even know where to go when you get to Crete. And I'm sure you don't know how to protect yourselves, do you?" The three children sat in silence until Grace blurted out, "We must go and help the people of Crete, even if we don't have all the information. Our family is responsible, Herman. Besides, my dad would never have given up, would he?" A single tear rolled down her pale cheek. Once again in the room, silence fell upon them all. Herman fidgeted in his chair. He looked down at Seba to avoid looking at Grace. He sighed and stroked the top of Seba's head. "You're right," he finally said. "Ye dad was a good man, and no, he would have never given up. He would have fought until his last breath, he would." Herman was still concentrating on the top of Seba's head. Herman looked up at the children. Okay, the only way I'd let you go is if me and Seba were to come with you. To protect you like," he added. Grace ran over, flung her arms around his broad shoulders and gave him a huge kiss on his cheek. The others beamed at him. "That would be great, Herman. We'd feel much better if you and Seba were with us," said Emma. "But we still need to find the crystal, don't we?" "I can't remember what Iris said now, can you?" asked Robert. "We should have written it all down. Blast! I knew I'd forgotten to do something." I suppose you do have a pea brain," Emma smirked as he narrowed his eyes to her. "Herman, have you a pen and paper I could have, please?" asked Grace. Herman nodded and walked to a bureau in the corner of the room. He opened one of the drawers and retrieved the items that Grace needed. She closed her eyes with a pen in her hand and the notepad opened to a clean page. "What's she doing?" quizzed Robert. "Shh, just wait." Grace's eyes opened and she started to write on the notepad. She did not stop until she was near the bottom of the page. "There," she said at last, looking up to the others with a smile. "What was that?" asked Robert, looking now at the two smiling girls, and then over to Herman, who just shrugged back at him. "Grace has a photographic memory, so she can remember everything in great detail," said Emma. "No way." "Really?" said Robert, and now he too smiled. He took Grace's notepad, and sure enough, there was the whole riddle Iris had told them earlier. "This is so cool," he said, almost breathless and impressed. He handed the notepad back to Grace and he could see she was itching to get started on it. She glanced at it and gave it to Emma. "Could you read it aloud verse by verse? I have to concentrate," said Grace. "Okay, no problem." The first two lines say, "Years have passed and I await. All nearly lost but not too late," recited Emma. Well, that's pretty clear, said Grace as she looked at the others. She means she has been waiting for us to come along. The others nodded in agreement. Now, the next 2 lines. A glimmer of hope, dare I say. Long has it been here cold and grey. This again is obvious. She hopes that by us opening the door to her we are there to help. Read the next 2, please. Emma looked down again at the notepad. Her finger followed the words as she read them. Stand alone. I keep listening. Many sunsets, then moon glistening. She tells us it has been many days and nights she has stood alone, listening in hope. Next. Delay no longer, my dear friends, 'tis you alone can make amends. This means we must go as soon as we can still make things right in Crete and save the people, said Grace. The others agreed and moved closer, all with a look of concentration. If eyes be sharp and spirits keen, senses in tune it will be seen, read Emma. I think she means that if we are smart and keep our wits about us, we will find the crystal. Ornate beauty within it shows, where it dwells only one soul knows. Now, this is where it starts to get tricky. I'm not sure what she means in the first part, but as a guess, I think it might be hidden in some ornament. The second part is clear. It means only one person knows where it is hidden, and that is Mum. A light from the darkness it shall bring, a wind doth blow and it will ring. I'm not sure what this means. Let's move on. Hath wary thoughts, I will confess. Magic, sorcery it doth possess. I don't know why, but Iris worries about this object. Maybe she thinks there might be a spell on it or something. But Mum's not a witch. She can't cast spells, can she? Asked Emma, looking at Herman. Don't ask me. You know your mum better than I do, said Herman, shaking his head. Anyway, let's move on, said Grace. What's the next line? 5 and 5 steps you must rise. Continue east to where it lies. 5 and 5 steps you must rise. What does that mean? Asked Robert. That's a tricky one too, said Grace. Then she looked at them all with excitement. I have an idea. Follow me, she said, as she ran to the cottage's front door. The others followed behind her as she went to the front of the house and through the large oak doors. In front of her now was the grand, circular staircase. I'm sure it means we have to go upstairs, said Grace with a twinkle in her eye. We have to climb 55 steps. Of course. 5 and 5 means 55, doesn't it? Urged Emma. They all started to count the stairs as they began their climb. The first set of stairs had 10 steps, and the second to the first floor had another 10. That's 20, said Grace. The following 2 sets of steps that took them to the second floor were identical to the first. That's another 20, which makes 40 now. They all looked around. Where now? Asked Emma. We must go up to the attic, said Grace as she opened the door to the attic staircase. The rest of the group followed her in a single file. These stairs were much narrower than the main staircase. Well, blow me down. There's a total eclipse today, whispered Robert from behind Emma's bottom. Drop dead, she chanted back to him. They all turned to face each other when she reached the top, but Grace looked worried. We need 5 more steps, she frowned, scanning the attic. But as they searched, they could not find any. Then her face lit up. Wait here, she yelled as she hurried down the staircase. A few moments later she was back and was panting heavily. We need to go down. Down? But you said we must climb 55 steps and have only climbed 50. Don't we need to find more steps up? Asked Robert. Come with me, I'll show you, said Grace as she started to go down the attic stairs to the second-floor landing. She stopped at the top of the stairs and turned to face the others. Do you recall our conversation with Iris earlier? It took place in the cellar, didn't it? Grace smiled as she watched all their faces, looking at her intently. So that means, she continued, we have to count the stairs from the bottom of the cellar steps, not the bottom of the main staircase. You're a genius, smiled Robert. So how many cellar steps are there? Grace beamed at him. 15, she said. So that means 55 steps ends right here. So, the next instruction tells us to head east. Herman, you are good with directions, aren't you? Which way is east? Wait until I get my bearings, Herman said as he ran his fingers through his messy brown hair. He turned around. Well, the main staircase is opposite the front door, and I know the front of the house faces south. So, east is that way, he said, pointing down the corridor towards Gran's bedroom. Where's your mum? Is she still in with your Gran? Asked Robert. No, she's downstairs in the living room reading. Let's hope Gran's asleep, said Emma. They all went down the corridor to Gran's bedroom and opened the door. I'll go in first, Emma suggested. It might be overwhelming for Gran if we all go charging in. Emma went in and closed the door behind her. She was soon back with a smile on her face. She's asleep, she whispered, beckoning for them to come in. Emma had closed the dividing doors from the lounge to the main bedroom where Gran was sleeping. She wasn't sure if Gran was a light sleeper, so she kept her voice low. A letter written for your pleasure. There you find your hidden treasure. She read from the notepad to the others. They all started to look around the room, but did not know what they were looking for. Gran's room was full of ornaments. Is it a letter we have to find? Whispered Robert. Hang on a minute, said Grace as she went to the writing bureau. This is where you write letters for your pleasure. And look. Grace pointed. Look what's on top of it. On top of the writing bureau stood a glass tasselled lamp. It appeared to twinkle in approval at their accomplishment. That's it. It all makes sense now, said Grace as she leaned over and started to examine all the glass tassels of the lamp. She spotted what she was looking for and held up the selenite crystal so they could all see. That was what Iris meant when she said a light from darkness it shall bring. She meant it was a lamp. And wind doth blow, and it shall ring. Well, the glass tassels ring when the wind blows through them, right? Of course, said Herman. You're a clever girl, aren't you? They all quickly left Gran's room and went downstairs. And that's why she was worried when she mentioned magic and sorcery, said Grace. Of course she would think the lamp was bewitched. She had never seen a lamp light up without the aid of a flame. Iris is of old times, remember, and has never seen electricity before. They all nodded. Yes, it made perfect sense now. They sat on the floral furniture in Herman's cottage again. But this time they had huge grins on their faces, feeling proud of themselves. Herman jumped to his feet. Where are you going? Asked Emma. Anyone fancy a cup of tea and a nice bit of cake? We have a lot of planning to do, he said with a smile.